an experience of her moving to Florida and the reason why she was moving to Florida. And we're going to hear that story in a moment. Sorry, do you want to share that with us, please? When
Yeah,
you moved,
sure.
when you moved to Florida and what was the experience and why did you move there, et cetera, et cetera?
Well, I mean, very honestly, I moved there um, because I had gotten a message from Spirit in meditation.
Okay.
And that was also like that whole precursor to the actual move is a whole nother story. It was fascinating though. But I ended up moving to Florida. I never had any inclination to move to Florida. I had never been to this part of Florida ever before. I didn't know anybody there. I didn't move for a job. I didn't move for a relationship. I moved completely, solely, 100% alone, fresh, brand new. I got an apartment online. One of my sisters drove down with me. And basically, we pull into this community because I figured it would be safer to get an apartment in a community and, that I would just commit for 1 year no matter what happened. I could get through a year. And so I was like, well, here we go. We're going to see where your sister's going to live for the next year. But it was actually great. Um, and all in all, so I ended up living there almost 5 years, but I have to tell you, it was without a doubt the most transformative experience I have gone through. Um,
In what way?
with such clarity. I had such clarity about the things that I was not, the shedding of the roles and the responsibilities that I didn't really have to own, but it had been so programmed into me and I had played those parts for so long. And prior to making that move down there, I was exhausted. I was exhausted by life. Um, and I just felt so unfulfilled and so like I knew I wasn't living my best life, who I really was, that it was deeply painful. And I was pretty much willing to do whatever crazy nonsense I was being directed and guided to do. Because it was a big leap. It was a really big leap. But you talked about like going to dinner by yourself or
Mhm.
whatever. I mean,
You would have had to do all that.
I had to do all that. I had
Ah,
to make all new friends. Everything was brand new and everything I had to do alone.
and that would
Um,
have been scary, exciting.
I was
Mm,
exhilarated by it. I thought it was the best thing ever.
yeah,
I had always been pretty good about making friends and talking and never intimidated by going to new places on my own. Obviously, this was like the
this is
master class
yeah.
lab, right? Lab class about on this. Because I was, like I said, I was alone and figuring it all out all along. But I was 90% of the time, if not 95 to 100% of the time, I was exhilarated by it all. Everything felt like a gift to me. And I know that that is not everybody's experience when they do things like this, because I know other people that have moved to places alone for a job or whatever, and it's been a challenge for them. But I felt exhilarated by it. I felt like every time I had an interaction, every place I went, everything I did, I got to show up with this version that nobody knew who I was. So I could just be me.
That's exactly right. Be you.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. But you said, and I'm going to take you back, before you
Mm-hmm.
moved to Florida, you said you
Mm-hmm.
had a spiritual, I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
call it an encounter to say
Mm-hmm.
that you need to move,
Mm-hmm.
or it was giving you a sign to move.
Mm-hmm.
Did it
Mm-hmm.
say where, or did you
Oh yeah.
choose the place? It
No,
said,
no. Yeah,
okay,
it took.
talk about this experience. I want to know. I'm curious.
Okay. Well, I mean, so I've been an intuitive medium all my life. When I was a kid, I used to see and hear dead people and couldn't tell the difference. And I used to get into a lot of trouble because people would be like, who told you that? And I'd be like, that man right there. And then, you know, you get in trouble. People think you're making it up, whatever. So I'd kind of really shut that down. And even though I had some really wild experiences, my logical mind always stayed in check about it, where I just thought, somehow I just made this up. I don't know. I don't know why it was true or right. But so around that time, I had started, I had a woman who offered to be a true spiritual mentor to me. This is before the days of coaching and mentorship where you pay somebody. She was somebody that was called to come find me and teach me about my gifts. And so the big part of this was to learn how to meditate. And so I was doing, you know, daily meditation. And in one of my meditations, I get real clearly that I am to move, that I'm to move to Florida. And I was like, this is the dumbest thing ever. Like, I have all this other stuff going on in my life. There's no way in hell I can do this. And so the next day, I get it again. And I'm like, listen, this is not going to work. So you can just stop with all that. Like, I don't want to hear about it no more. Next day again. And so then I was like starting to bargain, and I'm like, okay, well, listen, you're gonna have to like make this, you know, you're gonna have to give me months, you're gonna have to make the money come in so that I can do this. I'm gonna need a lot of help. And then I would get like a vision of me driving the U-Haul and that I was moving at the end of February. And this is like the beginning of December.
Oh,
And I
that's
was
not
like,
far away.
no, it was not. And I was like, y'all are nuts. And so I kept like I just argued about it. And then at the time I used to subscribe to Coastal Living magazine. I don't know if you have this in Australia, but it's a fairly popular magazine here, Coastal Living. So I get my Coastal Living magazine. This is about a week and a half into this nonsense. And on the cover, and they had this point they had revealed to me that it was to be St. Petersburg, Florida. And so on the cover of on the Coastal Living magazine, it's the cover story is about St. Petersburg, Florida. It's got the big pink Don Cesar, which is like an icon there. And I was like, that's real cute, y'all, but I still don't believe you. And so this goes on. And then a few more days later, I'm getting off the exit, coming home from somewhere, the exit to my house. And there's now this new billboard that says, now flying direct from Harrisburg to St. Petersburg, Florida. And again, I'm like,
You've
okay,
got to be kidding.
I see. No, I'm not kidding. And I'm like, I see what you're doing here, but that's not. Yeah, I'm really not ready to do this. So y'all are gonna have to like change your plans because I'm not ready to do this. And so I still wasn't buying into it, and I still wasn't doing anything to take any steps. And then probably another like 3-4 days goes by, and it was cold at the time. My mom had been in the hospital. I'd been at the hospital with her all day. And it's, you know, it's January now. And so I'm outside at like 10 o'clock at night. It's like 20 degrees outside. I'm outside on my balcony. I'm literally like talking up to the sky. I go back into my apartment, and my sliding glass door won't open. But I knew it wasn't really possible because, and that was what I said when I was out on the porch. I was like, listen, if you all really want me to do this, you're going to have to make it so obviously clear to me that this is not my home anymore, that I can't deny it, that I can't say no to it. So I go back in, the sliding glass door won't lock. And I know that there wasn't like any way that it could accidentally lock because you had to push the button up to get it to lock. So it's not like it like slipped down or something, right? So I'm kind of freaking out, and I kept trying the door and kept trying the door. And I was like, what am I going to do? I'm on the second floor. Like, I'm like contemplating, like, you know, my keys, my phone, everything's inside. Like, do I just try and drop over the side of the railing? Like, try and go knock on a neighbor's door? Like, what am I going to do? I can't stay out here. And then it like strikes me that maybe this is not, yeah, that maybe this is a sign, Faye. And so I look back up to the sky and I go, okay, if this is my sign, can I please go back in now? And I tried the door, and sure enough, just whoop, right open, just like that. And then I was like, I am not messing around no more. I'm sorry I didn't listen to you. I don't want to be locked out no more. I will do what I need to do to make the move happen. And I did.
Wow. How long did it take you to move once you decided?
I was there by the end of February. I did
Wow.
it. I did it just in the way they told me to. Listen, when you have that many signs and then you get locked out in the middle of January in the Northeast, you don't mess around no more.
Yeah.
I learned my lesson. I wasn't arguing anymore.
Wow. It's pretty interesting because there are people that are spiritual there and there are people that aren't.
Hmm.
So someone listening to this might say, oh, that's a whole lot of hoo-ha and all the rest
Hmm.
of it.
Hmm.
But I think we believe, and it's our choice to believe in things or not believe in things, or to understand what's going on in life. And I think we get signs. You don't have to be spiritual, but we do get signs for things that need to change, or something needs to, you need to do something different, or whatever it might be. But we don't really recognize it, or we think, oh, that's a load of rubbish, or
Hmm.
whatever. And
Hmm.
you're saying, you even get locked out of your apartment.
Uh-huh. I
And
sure
then you
did.
moved. And you lived in Pittsburgh for 5 years, or Florida for 5 years,
St. Petersburg.
St. Petersburg for
Hmm.
5 years.
Hmm.
What
Just
kept
about.
you, what kept you there?
It was amazing. Like it was awesome. I had one of the best times of my life, hands down. It was absolutely about finding myself and getting really strong and confident in that. Like you bring up about the spiritualness and people thinking, oh, that's a bunch of woo-woo nonsense, right? And the reality of the situation is like that was a piece that I had to work through there. I knew that what was happening to me, that what I knew about other people, what I could share with them was real, but I was so worried about how I was going to be judged. They'd even up until not even that long ago, only a few years ago, I still was like selective. Like there were certain circles and certain ways that I was real open about it. And then there's other ways that I wasn't at all. And so that was definitely a big part of my learning there. But I think the reality of the situation is that we all have some piece of ourselves that we've kind of bottled up and put off to the side that really is often somebody's actual gifts. It's something though that maybe it's an artistic gift, or maybe it's the gift to sing or whatever. And somewhere along the line we get told that's not, don't do that anymore. That's going to get you the wrong kind of attention, or that's something that, only girls do if you're a boy. And, there's all these things that we get told, and then we hide these pieces of ourselves. And now, if you ask, what if people think about, and I'll be like, yep, well, that's who I am. And so you can take it or leave it. You can believe me or not. That's okay. That's okay.
And that's the way it needs to be. I'm not going to say should be, it needs to be, because we're individuals. We have a right to our own opinions. We have a right to say things as long as it's not hurting anyone else.
Mhm.
And I think, you were growing up and you were having these conversations with dead people, as you say, and didn't
Mhm.
and didn't really understand it, or they'd come to you and talk to you about things and you'd
Mhm.
think, what's going on here? Did you
Mhm.
ever get scared when that happened?
Oh, oh, absolutely. It was terrifying at night. I have a few memories of like being in my room at night and having them like standing around my bed and stuff. And yeah. Yeah, it was terrifying at times. It was terrifying. That's why it's interesting too. Like, so I don't see and hear them like that anymore. Like, I literally could not tell the difference between you and them when I was a kid. And so I don't see and hear them. I don't experience them the same way because it still kind of startles me. I still freak myself out about stuff sometimes, honestly.
And I don't know, it's interesting because I know a few mediums, and I was having lunch with a lady one day and who's a medium, and I showed her a photo and she talked about these people in the photo and said things that were quite amazing.
Mhm.
And then she looked at a painting up on the wall and she says that painting, that it was a picture actually, And she said, it's talking to me. I keep seeing it and it's talking to me. It's telling me something. And I'm thinking, yeah, okay. But she's quite amazing, and she teaches that skill to people
Hmm.
who have that skill but don't understand it. So she
Hmm.
teaches it to them so that they understand it and can use it in the right way.
Hmm. Yeah.
Because if you don't
There's so much
understand
of
it,
that.
yeah,
Yeah.
if you don't understand it, you can't use it for the good that needs to be used for.
Hmm.
And I think being educated and understanding that is a really important part of becoming or bringing out that skill that you have, but you don't know how to use it. But
Hmm.
then when you're taught how to use it or understand it, then it can be used in a really good way. So when you move to Florida, Pittsburgh, I
St.
got it right.
Petersburg.
St.
Pittsburgh's in Pennsylvania.
St. St. Petersburg. I'll get it right one day.
That's okay.
And it's like, oh wow, wow. Okay, we've got to go for a break.